Hi, and welcome to the Indie KidLit podcast. I'm Marty Dumas, and my co-host Elena Page is a little bit MIA. I'm sure everything is fine where she is in Australia, but hopefully she'll pop in with us whenever she is able to actually connect. But for now, I am on with the wonderful, the amazing Darcy Pattison, who is our first three-peat guest. But even though she's three-peating, I'm gonna go ahead and do an intro for Darcy anyway, just in case you haven't been listening to the episodes in order. So Darcy Pattison's an American writer, fiction and nonfiction, and children's literature. She's a blogger and she's a writing teacher and she's an indie publisher. And even though she's best known for her work with children's literature, she's also a writing teacher who travels across the country presenting her novel revision retreat, a retreat that I do intend to go to someday. So you guys should check that out because it gets nothing but like rave reviews here from the SCBWI ladies in Louisiana. We're like digging Darcy. Darcy also started Mim's House, which is a small press that publishes all her titles at this point. And it's from a part of her work at Mim's House that we're hoping to be able to learn from her today because she has had to do a lot with formatting picture books as ebooks. And sometimes it's like the things that don't come easy to you that you really have to work to get that you can learn the most from. So hopefully we'll be able to pick Darcy's brain about that and I'll come away a little bit smarter from her labor. Welcome, Darcy. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, Marty, it's so great to be here. And I'm very thrilled that I'm the first three-peater.
What?
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah.
Well, I feel like every single time we've talked, I know that every single time we've talked to you, I've been like, okay, there's this thing, and this thing that we didn't even touch on. So we're obviously going to have to try to get you to come back on. And this is one of those things. Now, there's so many questions in general that we would want to ask you about your small press, but there's a ton of different parts of the small press. Like, for example, I can imagine us wanting you to do like a live workshop about just putting together a catalog of your small press items. Like that could be a whole thing on its own. But we're not going to go there today. We're going to mostly try to think about picture books because in our group, people have really been having the Dickens, like they've really been struggling.
Picture books as ebooks are just a bear. They're just difficult. It just does not naturally translate. Ebooks are that reflowable format and they need text. And what we have is images. And so we're just trying to jury rig something.
Right. So can you tell us a little bit about first of all, like your picture books and like which ones of yours do you think work best as ebooks and why do you think those ones work?
I think in general the industry has to decide on something else for picture books as ebooks. We have not got to that place yet. We're still a young industry, and I don't think anybody has experimented enough and found the right format to put pictures in there for kids that would marry the pictures and the text. So I think we're just jury rigging and kind of doing something that is hybrid, and it just doesn't quite work. But that means that everybody does it different. It's just a wild west out there. Nobody knows how to do this right, and including me. All I'm doing is figured out something that is a workflow that I think will work.
Right. So we love this series. My children and I love this series called Franny K. Stein. And there are not actually a ton of books in the series, but it's adorable. We wish that there were more. And we were on like a road trip and my son had run out of things to read on his paper books and blah blah. And so I had the brilliant idea. We've got connectivity. I will just download you a Franny K. Stein book. It's going to be so great, right? And so we do this. I know I love these books. These books are great, right? And he's telling me that he's like, oh, I can't see, I can't. It's right. Like, so then when we're like at a place that I can like actually be the person who's looking at it, I'm like, oh my gosh. So it's like a fixed format thing, but each page is like a photograph of the page. So then right. The text is blurry. It doesn't quite lay out on the thing. The joke is on the left page, but you can't see the right page with the text on, like it just
It's
really
horrible.
didn't work.
It really doesn't work. And so, what I've been trying to do is figure out how to make it work. I have a lot of picture books, a lot of science picture books, and some language arts ones. I Want a Dog, My Opinion essay, those sorts of things. And I really need them to be in the right format. And not only that, but every place where you upload is different. So when I upload to some of the educational presses like Follett or Mackin, what they want is a PDF. Okay, well, that works. But then if you go to Kindle or to Kobo, Publish Drive, which is going to distribute all over, or even Overdrive, they want an EPUB. Now, the EPUBs are just totally different than Kindles. Kindles are that proprietary format, which, is totally different. And so it's a wild west. It's like, how many times can you redo this book? And if your market's not really strong on that place, do you really want to spend the time to redo it for that market? And so I've been trying to figure out, a workflow that works for me. And then to add to that, Kindle makes it more difficult because they have download fees for ebooks. And the download fees are pretty substantial. For every megabyte of your file size. It's 15 cents, which doesn't sound like much if you're doing a novel, because the novels come in at about half a meg. No big deal, 7 or 8 cents. Most people don't even count that. But for us, 8 megs is not an unusual size at all. And 8 megs is $1.20 download. Right. So if you're only charging $1.99 for your book, you're in big trouble. And that's really where I started thinking about this a lot.
Yeah. So you were trying to, I've had the same troubles with particularly the first book in my chapter book series. It's an illustrated chapter book series, so it has a ton of illustrations, but the illustrations really go with the text, right? Like they don't stand alone. They need each other. And so then it was the best option, honestly, for that is to see it in its print layout, because its print layout is really good and it works together. But then when we tried to do that, we first had a fixed format, a fixed layout ebook, but then that doesn't work when people are looking on their phones, because then the text was too small for them to actually read. So then we were like, okay, well, we need to figure out something reflowable. But then if things reflow, then sometimes
your carefully orchestrated combination of text and art.
Exactly. Yes. So then that didn't work. So then what has your process, because we're still in the like we've gone back and forth, done it a bunch of times, compressed images just to try to make sure that it's less than 10 megabytes so that we can not be actively losing money on every sale.
So let's just say if your book is over 7 megs, here's a general rule. You need to go for the 35% royalty rate on Kindle, because otherwise you're losing money. If it goes over 7 megs, and you're charging $2.99 or even $3.99, $4.99, it's difficult to make any money if you're over 7 megs, unless you just go for the 35%, because the 35% does not charge the download fees.
Right.
So you might as well just figure you're going to do 35% unless you can get it down.
Okay. So is that what you do, Darcy?
Now, since I sat down and did all the math. So this has been a long process. I knew for a while that I needed to sit down and really figure this thing out. But it took me a long time to actually find the time and to be motivated enough. But I sat down and looked at all my income from Kindle, and saw that about 20 to 25% of my income was going back to Kindle because they're for the download fees. And I figured, well, that's not right. I've got to figure out something to make sure my download fees are more reasonable, 5 to 10% at the most. So that's really where it started, is I really was on a quest to figure out how to limit those download fees, which means that instead of an 8 megabyte file, I've got to get it down to about 2 megs.
2 megs. So you've been able.
2 to 3.
All right. So now I feel like we've teased people enough. What do you do? Like, what's your process now, and how did you get there?
Well, how I got there is very difficult. I did lots and lots of experiments. So there's just some basic things that you need to understand. Quality. Everybody's worried about quality. So the first thing they say when they're going to upload their files is, oh, it's got to be 300 DPI. So DPI is dots per inch, which is a print specification. It is not a screen press specification. So it really doesn't have anything to do with the size or the quality of your image when it's on a screen, which is what ebooks are. The ebooks are always on the screen. So we need to not even think about DPI. What you do have to think about, though, is the overall pixel size. So the Kindle Fire is one of the largest screens, and it measures 1600 by 2560 pixels, or
Okay.
about a total of 4 megapixels. Okay, so for that 4 megapixels, then what you're worrying about is that size. So you're no longer worrying about DPI. You can do 72 DPI. That's standard. That's fine. And that's what you should do, because that will reduce the file size just starting there. But you also then need to worry about how big it is. So in fact, I went back and actually read Amazon's guidelines. Have you read them?
There are a lot of them.
I know. I hadn't either. I bet most people have not. So I thought, oh, maybe I should do that. And it turns out they have a lot of nice guidelines in there. Some of them I don't agree with, but some of them are very helpful. So they say by the time you take out everything on the menu and all of that stuff that, there's this what you see on the screen, when you actually get down, subtract all that, and you actually get down to what your image measures, it measures 1200 pixels by 1800 pixels. And that is 2.16 megapixels. So that means that the maximum megapixel size for every image that you put in there should be 2.16 megapixels. Are we already confused?
Yes, because I'm wondering,
Yes.
like, okay, megapixels, that's great, but like, how do I know how much that is, like, in terms of the file size? And yeah, okay. All right. I mean,
Yes.
but
So
okay.
your computer, if you're looking at your Finder on a Mac, or if you're looking at your Explorer on a PC, when you look at a file, it should tell you how big that file is. If not, there's an option for you to display that. You should display that and figure out what size it is. But the other way to do it is just multiply 1200 by 1800. Whatever the dimensions of your picture are, just multiply them by each other, the width by the height, and that will give you the number of megapixels.
Okay.
So if it's 1200 pixels by 1800 pixels, that's 2.16 megapixels.
Okay, great.
But again, your file Explorer or Finder should tell you that also.
Okay.
So, but that's what you're going for, is you're going for about 2.16 megapixels at 72 DPI. Again, the DPI doesn't matter. Okay, what does matter though is one more measurement, and that's quality.
Okay.
Okay,
So the quality is not measured in dots per inch because it's not print. Okay.
correct. It's not measured
So,
in DPI because it's not print. And the only way to get this that I know of is to have Adobe Photoshop, or I use Photoshop Elements, which is a standalone program that's about $80. So I don't have the full Photoshop that you have to pay the subscription for all the time. I just have that standalone program. I did update that this year though, and that was wonderful because I had like one that was like 13 versions old. So it was time to update. So are we confused yet? Yes. This is all really confusing. I have it laid out on a blog post too, which you can link to in the show notes, because
absolutely.
I was going to do it today, and I was going, oh, I need to go look at that blog post and see what I'm supposed to do. So even I have to go back and look at the steps because it's so confusing.
Okay. And but that's comforting. And so can you say the title? We'll definitely put it in the show notes,
Sure, sure.
the link to the blog, but can you just say where people can find it?
Yeah, it's darcypattison.com/publishing/format hyphen pictures hyphen books hyphen Kindle.
All right.
So
So
it'll be in the
we'll
show
get
notes.
that in the show notes. Yeah. We'll
Okay,
definitely
so
get
the next thing you have to worry about is photo quality. And this is a Photoshop thing. And the photo quality is really how much information is included in the file. And it's an algorithm that says, okay, if I'm a low quality, I'm only going to sample a few of the pixels next to this pixel, and I'm not going to put much information in there. If you have a really high quality, it's sampling almost every pixel around it, so it knows exactly what should be there, and the quality is much higher. And the difference between the two is if you have a high quality image and you blow it up, it's going to look great. If you have a low quality image, you blow it up, it's going to be pixelated, or you're going to see the little boxes around each pixel. Okay.
Yeah.
So the higher quality is great, but guess what? The higher quality, the bigger the file size. So we have to find a compromise between a quality that's good enough but doesn't bloat that file so that then we have all those download fees, right?
Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
So we don't want those bloated files, even though they're the highest quality. What we need is something that's acceptable. And so, well, let's be
No, no, no,
practical.
that's great. My daughter has been like is obsessed with this comic, which is of cats in a greeting card store. It's a drawing, cats in a greeting card
Yep.
store, and there is the For Your Humans section, and one of the cats is selecting a card that says you are acceptable. Which is about right. But then I'm like now transposing that onto this. Okay, it's like we're so used to thinking of I want the best one, like my customers deserve the best one, to like no, 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 acceptable. Let's figure out
Yeah,
what's
I mean,
acceptable.
if you're that kind of person where you cannot stand the idea that you're going to give them a lower quality image, then you should accept that 35% um, royalty rate and go for it. Just go for the biggest file that you want to, but then you're going to have that 35% royalty rate. So if you want the 70% royalty rate and you want reasonable download fees, it's a compromise. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
It's just you've got to give somewhere. Okay.
Okay.
So what so I had several versions of Kindle's um, guidelines. The old version said a quality score of 40 is okay, which is Photoshop has low quality is about 10. I don't know what that is except a quality score. So 10 quality score. Medium is about 30 quality score. High is about 60. Maximum is 100. So from 10 at the lowest to 100 at the highest. So the old Kindle guideline said 40 quality is good enough. That's what they
Okay.
recommend. That's what they recommended. So now they are recommending a high quality of 60. So that's because we have devices that are more high definition. So it needs better quality.
Yeah.
So roughly somewhere between 40 and 60 quality score is what you're looking for. And I'm going to the lower end because when I look at it on all the devices I can possibly grab, it still looks good. I mean, I think it looks good. So I go for a 40 quality score. And that reduces my file sizes immensely. So if you have a file size that starts out at 6.4, that's a maximum quality. You go down to low, it'll be 196 kilobytes.
What?
Yes. So just by changing this quality score, you reduce the file size. So if I go from 6.4 megabytes to a medium quality, it goes to 652 kilobytes. So about half a
Wow.
meg.
Yeah. That's a
Okay,
lot.
that's a lot from 6.4 to half a meg.
Yeah.
That's immense difference.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like an 80% reduction or some craziness. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
lot.
some craziness. It's really amazing how much just that right there reduces your file sizes. And there have been some individual files that I've gone a little bit higher and I've gone to the high quality. So a high quality would go from 6.4 down to 2 megs. So
Okay.
I'm still reducing it immensely, but not
Yeah.
as much as if by going to the medium quality.
Yeah.
So there's been a few, individual ones within a book that I've gone, no, that just doesn't look quite right. I'm going to go for a little bit higher quality. And then I just know that those files are a little bit bigger and it's going to affect my overall file size. So that makes a big difference.
All
Okay.
right.
So are you following me so far?
No, and I'm literally taking notes. So like we got it. Okay.
Yeah. So first of all, you're going to not worry about DPI. You're going to worry about the actual dimensions of your
Okay.
thing. And at the most, you need 2.16 total. And then second of all, you're going to go for a medium or a high quality score.
Okay.
And that's going to get
Right.
your file sizes from about 6 to 8 megs down to less than 2 anyway. Maybe down to half a meg.
So that's helping with our charges, right? And
yes.
So then that's good. So that's like bringing money back to the table for us, which is a good thing. Like we all want. Even if you're going to give the money away, it's better to have more money to give away than less money to give away. So we want to bring that back to the table. So that's good. So but then what are I'm really curious to hear about what your next steps are, because I know just from like hearing like in the back of the room, I know that you've gone through like several iterations of your actual ebook making process for picture books. So
several iterations, yeah. So I'm not sure I'm at the the final one, but this one's feeling pretty good. So what I would do is I would take that file and I would hand code it. So
you say that so casually, Darcy. I'll take it and then I'm just gonna hand code it. It's fine.
Yeah, well,
What does
that's
that
not easy either. But R. Scott Johns has some amazing ebook tutorials, and without him, I would be totally sunk. And I even went to him and said, "Would you do me a template?" And I paid him to do a template. He no longer does that, unfortunately.
Okay.
But I did get a template from him, and then all I had to do was to just change out the images, and then on the metadata, there was some things I had to do on that. Okay, it was not as complicated as it seems once you have a template. Hi, Elena.
And Elena's joined us. We knew she was okay.
God, don't ask. But I'm here. That's the main thing.
That's the main thing. That's good. All right. So
now you have to do me a really, really quick summary now of what you've talked about. Just give me like the lowdown.
No, I can totally do that. We have learned.
If you have.
Oh no, you do it, Darcy.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you have an ebook that is over 7 megs, then you should go for the 35% royalty rate on Kindle, because otherwise you're losing money on the download fees. Yeah, so then we're trying to get those download fees down. And to do that, instead of paying attention to DPI, we're going to pay attention to the file size, which should be under 2.16. And to figure that out, you go by the dimensions of the height and length of the picture.
Okay.
And have you already asked, like, what happens if you use vellum?
No, we're not even there yet.
No, we're not to vellum. We'll get there.
We're not there.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and then the next thing we said was to control the quality of the image. And Google used to say 40% quality was great. Now they say 60% or 60 quality score is good. And so I go between 40 and 60, whichever looks right.
Perfect.
Yeah. So then
now that we've got reasonable sized images that are of acceptable quality for us.
Yes.
Now we move forward.
Yes. And now comes the interesting part. And that's when I started looking around going, okay, now I've got to get it on Kindle. Well, for Kindle Gen rules. This is something everyone should repeat to themselves. Kindle Gen rules. Kindle Gen is the program from Kindle which takes your files and translates it into the Kindle format. No book gets on Kindle without going through the Kindle Gen. If you upload it to Kindle, it goes through Kindle Gen. If you go through their children's Kindle Kids Book Creator program, it goes through Kindle Gen. It doesn't matter what program, everyone has to go through Kindle Gen, which means Kindle Gen rules. So what is Kindle Gen doing?
Yeah, how do you spell Gen?
KINDLEGEN.
GEN.
It's short for like generator.
Right.
Generator, yes.
Mm-hmm.
So what does Kindle Gen do when it takes a picture book file? Well, nobody knows.
Right. It's a mystery. Right. I do have it on I have it.
Yes. I have Kindle Gen too. Yes, everybody has it, but they're going, what does it do? Well, and so that's the mystery, and you can. There are programs that will allow you to deconstruct a Kindle file and see what's actually in there, but they're obscure programs and nobody generally uses them. So, but when you go to the Kindle Kids Book Creator program, this is the free program that they provide to people who do children's picture books. Then what it does is it generates all the files and it does not hide them. I was going, oh, look at that. There's all those files. And I've been doing the hand coding. So I was going, oh, I can look in there and I know what I'm looking at. And so I looked in there, and everybody knows that what it does, what the Kindle Gen does, is it generates 2 versions of your book. One version is the one that they deliver. Then one version is just the original one that they're going to hold on to in case they need to reformat it if anything changes on Kindle, right? And that's really a smart business decision on their part. They want all of that so that if their business changes or if they have a new version of a Kindle device, then they can update files if they need to. But the problem is that bloats the file again.
Yes.
Yes. So when I was looking in
one.
these files that were generated by the Kindle Kids Book Creator Program, the KKBC, when I looked in there to see what it was doing, what it's doing is it's shrinking it down to the maximum width is 1,000 pixels. So it doesn't matter what you're putting in.
Oh, I did not realize that. And before our width was 1,200 pixels, right?
Right.
Okay.
But it doesn't. But it reformats it to 1,000, and it doesn't matter what you put in there. It's going to go down to 1,000. Now you should try that and see. I'm right. I mean, this is only my experience, so
We believe you.
Disclaimer. Okay.
I'm open for correction, believe me, because we all need to work together to figure this out. But everything I was putting in, it changes it to 1,000 pixels. So then why am I doing anything different? So I changed all my sizes to 1,000 pixels, re-uploaded them, and indeed, it exactly matched what they resized. Okay. And my file sizes dropped.
Oh, wonderful. Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
So one more. And then there is a program called Image Optim, IMAGEOPTIM. So if you take a photo, and most of the cameras do this these days, it has that EXIF information on there that says, this is the GPS coordinates of where you took it. This is the settings of your camera when you took it. This is, other information. Well, you don't need all that information in a Kindle book, right? So it strips all the metadata that you don't need. And that will reduce your file size 10 to 20% more. So we're whittling away at these file sizes.
Yes, we are.
With Image Opt-in, you actually put the image in there and it will strip the metadata.
It's a free program. You download it, you open it up, and it says drag your files over here. You drag them over there. It resizes, it strips all that out, and it you've got new file sizes. You can tell it to overwrite the old ones, or you can tell it just to create new ones, whichever way you want to do it.
Okay.
But it just automatically strips it all out.
Oh, I'm sorry, Darcy. I just want to make sure, because I'm trying to picture your workflow like as we're going. So in terms of your workflow, you have 32 single images. You have 16 double images. Like,
I'm getting to that in just a minute.
Okay. And then
so what I do is I export from PDF, but I'm using InDesign, so I export rather than rather than save as. I'm exporting JPEGs.
Okay.
As single page images.
With the text and everything on it.
With text and everything on it. Yes. And and then I take it over to Photoshop, and I'm changing the file size now to 1,000 pixels wide.
Okay.
At 40% quality. Okay. And then I take it to Image Opt-in, and I strip out the metadata. That reduces it another 10%, 10 to 20%, but mine are about 10%. Okay. So.
All right. I'm with you. And that first part, honestly, it sounds so standardized. Like, do you record the movements and then have like Photoshop just do it for you? Like, do you just put like a little batch of files in it and let it do it and spit it out, or do you do them by hand?
Oh no, Photoshop actually has a really nice command where you can batch your photos. Yeah, it's just cool. Look for that on Google. It's just a process more than one file, process multiple images.
Yep. All right.
So you can process just a whole folder full of images, in less than a minute.
Yeah.
It'll sit there and do it for you.
All right, great. I'm sorry, I interrupted you.
No.
Darcy.
I want you to clarify. So finally, all of that. Then I take those images over to Kindle Kids Book Creator, load them up, see what I got. And generally, if you look at your folder that holds all these images, whatever size that folder is about the size that your ebook will turn out. Because most of what is in an ebook is your images. So you might add, a little bit extra, but that's a rough estimate of what it'll be. So if you just look at the folder size, not the individual images, but the folder size. But, most of my images now are getting under half a meg anyway, and some of them down to 300 kilobytes. Yeah.
That's nice.
So then it doesn't add up to so much. So I tried that, and yay, I'm getting down to 2 or 3 megs, which is saving me. At 8 megs, it would cost me a download fee of $1.20. At 4 megs, it's 60 cents. I've saved half of it, the download fees. At 3 megs, it's 45 cents. So I wanted to see, can I get under that 45 cents? And the way to do that is to export
I
spreads.
love your competitive spirit, Darcy. This is amazing. You're like, oh, we can do better.
We can. Is to export spreads, because I want my books are always in spreads. Okay, so then I'm exporting spreads at 1,000 width, 1,000 pixel width.
And how do they look? How do they look? I feel so nervous about that. How do they look, Darcy?
They look good. What I do not like about Kindle, and especially the Kindle Kids Book Creator, is it strips out the ability to pinch zoom.
Yeah.
Not pinch zoom. They want you to put in all those extra little boxes that pop up.
Exactly, yeah.
So I haven't done it, but I think those boxes are not going to add much because it's just text. Okay, so the text is not going to add much. So go ahead and add those if you need to if your text is not big enough for you to see. And I need to go back on a couple books and do that, where you have the pop-up things. I wish they would just do the pinch zoom. Everybody knows that, and it just works better. But so anyway, so now I have spreads that are 1,000 pixels wide at 40 quality. And I can get under 3 megs. I can get down to 2.4, whatever it is, but it's always under 3 megs at that.
Okay. So then now you've got your spreads. So then are you feeding your spreads into KKB, the Kindle Kids Book Creator, or are you doing something else?
No, I feed them into that.
Okay.
For the hand-coded, I still am going to, for the EPUBs, I still may go hand-code it because it doesn't have to go through the Kindle Gen and stuff. And I don't care so much about the size. Although for the international market, I worry that someone in Nigeria wants to download my book and they don't have very good internet, although Nigeria has good internet. But, I worry about places that don't have as good download speeds and stuff. The smaller sizes would be better. So I still like the smaller sizes for that reason, but I don't have a big market there anyway yet. Just wait, yet.
I can see you coming back to tell us how to take over Nigeria.
So all of that together gets me down under 3 megs for a full color 32-page picture book.
That's great.
Yeah, so I'm saving $1 download on every book. So every book I sell, if I sell 100 books that month, I'm making $100 more.
That's passive. That's like
yes.
It's like you did the work up front, but then now that's just going to keep working for you over time. That's great. Okay. All right. So okay, no, you go.
No, so it's a total pain. To redo all this and to go through all this and figure all this out. But I think what it's going to do is just help my bottom line.
Okay. So the question that I was going to ask you is, how long does it take you to do all this?
Well, the first time, a lot. Now I've gotten a lot faster, and now I could probably do one in 30 minutes if I'm sure that my my formatting is right on the picture book, the InDesign file and everything's right there. Then to do the reformatting of the pictures and stuff is really pretty fast. My workflow is much faster than it used to be. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Can I just ask a quick question about the 40% quality? Can you do that inside Photoshop?
Yes.
It's a really stupid question, but it's a technical one. So when you open up like resize, is that where it is?
It's not the resize. It's actually when you save, then it'll ask you what quality.
I have seen that there. Thank you very much.
You can also go in and save for the web, and then it'll pull up side-by-side images, and you can actually see the quality changes as you do it. So there's a couple ways to do it.
Right, and 40% is like, that sounds low, like it makes me nervous. I'm like, 40%, that can't be good, but it's pretty good.
But yeah,
so the original Kindle guideline said 40 quality. Okay. And now they're saying 60 quality is what the new 2018 says, 60 quality. But that raises your file sizes from So like if I have a original file size of 6.4, if I go to 60 quality, it'll be 2 megs instead of 6.4. If I go to 40 quality, it's like half a meg.
Wow, that's a big difference.
Half a meg.
That's a lot of difference. Yeah.
A lot of difference.
We have a little like a little Mardi Gras crew that hand makes our own like throws, which is not usual for Mardi Gras crews. You usually buy your stuff. But one of the things that we make is buttons. And we're like all Wonder Women, but like all women that look like really different. So we're always like scouring the internet for images that we're able to use that are like not the traditional looking Wonder Woman. And in that process, we found a ton of really great images, but like to print for a button, our buttons are going to be 2 inches wide. So like it's not even going to be 2 inches, the image, right? That we print off, like it'll end up being, you know, 1 3/4 inches maximum, right? I cannot tell you how many images we've not been able to use that we found on the internet because they look just fine on the internet. But then when you go to print them off, even in that tiny little space, it looks horrible. Like it looks like just totally. So like that experience is making this like I'm still a little nervous, but like it's making this whole conversation kind of jive for me because like those images look just fine on the screen. They just look horrifying if we go to print them out.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. What you need for print is not what you need for screens. It's totally, totally different. So the 40 quality, I know it makes you nervous, so you need to try some. And if it just doesn't look right, or you don't like the way it looks, then go to 60 quality. But I wouldn't go more than 60 because you're giving up money to Kindle when you do. You know, those download fees are just terrible. So there are some objections to all of this. Let me cover those real quick. The first one is quality. That's what made me think of this. The first one is quality. People really, really don't, you know, I want my books to look really good. I want to give my customers quality. You are giving them quality at 40 quality for an image, but if it makes you nervous, or if you find those individual ones that are, you know, just don't quite come up to what you think it ought to look like, go to 60 quality. There's nothing wrong with that. But I wouldn't do it for the whole book because then you can't get your file sizes down.
Yeah.
Right.
And then another thing too to think about is that like people, if you're downloading on your phone or something, I don't always think about it because like I'm grandfathered into like that old actually unlimited plan for data on my phone. But like thinking about like that the person purchased your thing and then they're also paying to download it, like that is, you know, like it's a help for them. And not just helping you.
You know, the reason we go to 72 dpi is because the human eye cannot distinguish on a screen. On a screen, on print, it's different, but on a screen, 72 dpi is just standard. You can't distinguish the differences, and it's the same thing with these quality measures. Is the human eye just can't tell the difference. There may be that rare person, I'm sure they're listening, who can, but most people cannot.
It's little kids anyway. You know, I bet a child won't care one way or the other.
Well, and the other thing is, if you think about print quality, you know, you get a Scholastic Book Fair book.
Right.
They're cheap.
Yeah.
They're on cheaper paper with lower quality. And then you buy a really, really high-end, you know, a very expensive hand-done book, which is a really high quality. So Kindles are not that, you know, premier quality. They're just not.
You know, for us, when we get one of those special books, even in print, it's a bit like, you know, the clothes that you put somewhere and you're like, my special clothes, I will wear them one day, and then you never wear them, and then you've grown size and they don't fit. We do that with books. We're like, that's the special book, the one we paid so much money. Right. And then when we get the crappy ones, oh my God, we read them and read them and read them until like they're in tatters and it's our favorite book for life. So
I think you have to be reasonable here. I think there's a place for quality, and if you want your books to sell and if you want to make money and you don't want to pay those download fees, then there's a compromise that you need to make. And you have to decide where that line is. So for me, I'm doing 40 quality for most of mine. I don't think they pixelate. You can't pinch zoom them anyway. They don't allow it on the Kindle format. So I think they look fine. They even look fine to me on other formats where you can pinch zoom. So, if you pinch zoom really, really hard, it's going to get a little pixelated, but the 40 quality is pretty good. Yeah. So go to 60 if it really bothers you. Another thing that people fuss about is they don't want to do JPEGs. They want to do PNG format. And the reason for that is transparencies. And there's a lot of good reasons to use that when you're doing an InDesign file or a Photoshop file. But Kindle Gen rules. Kindle Gen will change those to JPEGs whether you like it or not. So you might as well control it.
I was going to say you should do it yourself.
Do it yourself so you know what it's going to look like. Because otherwise, you look at it and it looks kind of weird, and you go, well, how did that happen? Well, it happened because you had PNGs, and Kindle Gen rules. They will change it. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not. Kindle Gen, nothing gets on the Kindle shop without going through Kindle Gen. Kindle Gen rules. And then another thing that I've heard people fuss about is they want to preview it. And in order to preview it, they want to sideload it onto their Kindle apps. So if you have like an iPad and you have a Kindle app and you want to sideload it, then the K8 format doesn't always work because Kindle doesn't care about those Mac apps. You're on an iBook. No. I don't want you to have that app on the iPad. I want you to buy a Kindle device, is what Kindle says. So they don't keep that app updated. And it does not show the picture book formats. It just doesn't. The best way to do it is to try uploading one, and then go and see what devices it says it will load up on. And on the blog post, I have a picture of my book, I Want a Dog, which is down to about 2.46 megs or something like that. And it is almost every device. Every device, it's available for those. So don't worry about side loading onto something and trying to preview it. It does not work. The best way to do it is just go ahead and put it up on the Kindle store and just see, what the formatting is going to be for it. What are compatible devices. Okay.
All right. So we are getting close to the end of our time. I want to make sure that you have said all the big parts that we should have before we go in and start using your blog post as our everyday formatting references.
Yeah, I think that's the main things. I know it's very technical today, and I apologize for that. But this is really the business of indie publishing, is figuring out how to maximize your income, and for that, sometimes you have to get really technical.
Exactly. Yeah. Can we talk about vellum now?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Thanks, guys.
So I have used vellum for books that have some illustrations but are not picture books.
Yes.
And vellum very kindly says, oh, this is not large enough. You need a different size picture. So have you done it for a picture book, Eleanor?
I have done all mine through vellum. That's why I'm asking. Because I'm like, oh no, is this making I have no idea of the downloads or anything. All I know is I stick my pictures in, vellum transforms them, I upload them. I've never looked at download fees. I've pretended it isn't there because it freaks me out. So it's
you're typical of many people. I've never looked at download fees. If you look at them, you'll be horrified. You'll find it's 20-25% of your income is gone because of those download fees.
Right.
Yeah. So I think vellum is a good program, but if you're going to use vellum, I would go through the same process. I would control the size, I would control the quality, and before I would let vellum have it. So
I assumed vellum must shrink them, or vellum must do something spectacular to. I assume, because this is confession. I actually stick my 600 DPI, whatever it's called, TIFF files straight into vellum. That's what I do. Isn't that terrible?
So vellum does do some cool things. So I've seen a post where they talk about what they do to images, and it's different for each format. And so for But the problem is, I think for Kindle, what they're doing is they're leaving it at 100% quality, because that's what the general guidelines are, that Kindle says you should give us the highest quality possible. So they're giving you the highest quality possible, which means a bigger file size.
So essentially, for like, we reformatted the illustrated chapter book series with vellum because like people had said, oh, it's streamlining the files. That was not at all the case. It definitely did not streamline the files. However, in that process, and in being like, okay, well now, you know, it's like now we're doing it, so we have to make it work and like make it. We went in and reduced the file sizes. We didn't do all of these steps, so I bet we could make it even smaller. But like we were able to get, and those chapter books have a bunch of like they have more images than a picture book, because they're not so then like one of them will have like 72, 74 images in it, which is a lot, right? You know, so but we were able to get that down, and I was like all excited to like under 10 megs, because before it had been like a truly ridiculous size. So now I'm gonna go through and
10 megs,
getting
33%. So if you're interested in vellum, they do have a page where they explain what they do for each platform, and I believe for Apple they use a smaller quality rating, but for Kindle they use the 100%. So what I would do is, they're not going to change that, but what I would do is I would format my files before I upload them to vellum. If they're properly properly done before you upload it to vellum, then you're still going to get that file size you need, because vellum doesn't change it. So in general, though, doesn't matter which software you're going to use, whether it's the Kindle Kids Book Creator or vellum or anything. I think if you control the images before you send them anywhere, that you're going to have those better file sizes, and it's going to make you more money. I mean, the bottom line here is, let's make more money.
Let's make more money. Exactly. That's a good thing. I feel like I know I'm being like a little bit silly, but I'm really not, because I feel like a lot of times that artists and people who are caretakers, which a lot of children's book authors like often have that like caretaker streak about them, that we demonize the position of money and think about it as like, oh, that's the thing that taints things. But like, you can do really great things with money. Like, you can do really super helpful things with money. So let's have the money. This
is a business. You know, you've got to maximize your profits, and to do that, you're gonna take every smart move you can. This is a smart move to make, is to get those file sizes down so that you can maximize your profits. Absolutely. And like Marty said, it's a passive thing. Once it's done, you just rake in the money. Well,
I'd be curious
money, though, but
we like to rake in the money. But I'd be curious to. I'm gonna actually go and look at my download fee, and then I'm gonna do what you said in my vellum file, and I'm gonna see what it is afterwards. And I shall report.
Please report. Please report. I want to know.
Terrific.
You know how much difference it makes. You know, I've been looking. I did this in January, early January. So February is the first month where I should actually show a profit, and it's a lot of difference.
That's a lot.
Wonderful. That's great. That's great. And just think about like the impact that just has on things like your willingness to do things like AMS ads or Facebook ads. Like, if you're making more money per sale, then that automatically makes your ads more profitable, because
absolutely. Yes, it just gives you more of a margin to play with when you're doing the advertising.
And as you get more books, it matters more too. You know, like I can imagine, if you just got one, you think, oh, well, what does it matter? But if you've suddenly got 50 books out there and you're losing, that much on each of them, that all really adds up.
Yes.
That adds up.
Now, so I will say, technically, this is not what Kindle tells you to do.
No.
So we're technically not following Kindle's guidelines. We're not doing it because Kindle says these things for their own reasons. They want to have that backup copy in their files, so that if they decide they're going to do this super high definition, device 5 years from now, they'll be able to reformat for it. Well, in the meantime, I'm losing money. So I will keep my eye on what Kindle's doing. And if they do that device, super high definition,
and that device takes off,
Yeah, then I will reformat for that device. But until then, I'm not paying them hundreds of dollars a month just so they can future-proof their business. I need to make profit in my business today. And to do that, then I need to figure out what they're doing and then figure out how to be smart about what I do.
Darcy,
can I ask?
Sorry. Go ahead. No,
go.
Gotta go.
Okay. Can I ask one more question before we go?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Connected but different. When it comes to print, I've always wanted to ask you this. So since I have you on a screen before me, when it comes to print and, there's Create Space and their quality, and you can't, that is what it is. And then Ingram Spark gives you those, or a Lightning Source gives you those options for like standard color, gorgeous color. What do we do there? I go gorgeous color.
They should call them that. Gorgeous color. Like standard color or gorgeous color. Like, which do you want? Okay.
Right.
So for my paperbacks,
go.
I do standard 70.
Say again?
For my paperbacks, I do standard 70. The standard is on a 50 weight paper, which is just too flimsy for my liking. But the standard 70, I think, is fine for a paperback. But then for the hardcover, I do premium.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So you don't go premium. Why not premium for paperback?
Costs too much.
I love you. You're so funny. You're like the real businesswoman.
That's funny.
No, again, it goes back to this idea of Scholastic Book Fair books are not really high quality. And this is higher quality than that.
Is it? And if you put it side by side with Create Space, for example, or the premium.
Wait a minute. See, we're not the judges. If you put these books in front of a teacher, they don't care.
Really?
They do not care. I've handed books that have not been the best print job I thought. I've handed it to a teacher and they go, wow, this is such a great book because this happens and this happens. They care about the story. So yeah, I want the best quality I possibly can, but I also have to give books to the marketplace for what they're going to be used for. A paperback book is not going to go into a school library. It's not going to be a long-term book. It's a paperback book. So
and does it bring the cost down? Does it change the pricing quite a bit?
Absolutely.
Does it?
Yeah. Go look at it because the standard 70 is it's more expensive than standard, but not as expensive as that premium. I love the premium.
If you do put them side by side, like, is it that different? You can tell, but not. Can you tell? Okay.
You can definitely tell the difference. Yes. We've done tests with we've done all the options, and you can definitely tell the difference. But it wasn't worth the price difference. Like having to sell a paperback picture book. Where when families that we're also like targeting can buy paperback picture books for like $7.99, $6.99. It's hard to ask them to pay $15.99 for a paperback book just because the paper was prettier. They're happy with the one, and we charge $8.99. So then it's like right within what they're used to paying, and so then they don't balk at the price when we, they're just like, oh, and they get the book and not like, oh, it's so nice though, and then they walk on. It's.
People know what they're getting when they get a paperback. They're not getting the highest quality. Now the hardcovers, because they're going to school libraries mostly for me. Then I do care about the quality. I don't sell very many of those at all on Amazon, if any, but I sell them from the educational distributors. They'll buy them. So I do care about the quality on those. So for those, I go premium.
Terrific.
Yep. I mean, so we're really worried about quality, whether it's ebooks or print books, but on all of it, I think you have to just be practical and go, this is not the dress. If you talk about clothes, this is not the formal. It's not the really high quality. No, this is just everyday jeans, t-shirt kind of quality.
Yeah, terrific.
And that's good. I mean, it's a good quality.
Well, Darcy, again, like I started off by saying that there are 3 other things in this area that I can already think about that I would like to be able to pick your brain about. I don't know that we always have to pick your brain on air, but I bet that other people appreciate our habit of consistently picking your brain on air. So I leave it out there. But I really appreciate this. And we will definitely have the blog post linked in the show notes. Is there anything in particular that you would like people to check out besides that blog post?
Oh, well, you can always check out my books at mimshouse.com, mimshousc.com.
Okay.
And you know, we're not very good about buying each other's books. We need to get better at that. Go buy one of my books.
I agree. And even like you know, like we have that fantastic Facebook group. Are we allowed to mention it on air? Oh, dun, 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 dun. But it has been open for quite a while now. And now I just check. People have to answer if they do write kids' books, and have they written some in order to be allowed in. But we have that great Facebook group, and you're right. No one we could be buying each other's books, or even just doing some promos or something together, because there's amazing talent in there. I don't think children's book authors are as good as working with each other as the adults are. I'm going to say it. I don't care if it's controversial. I think we're not as good as working together as the adults are.
Well, I think that's because they trade off their ebooks. And if we get really great, cheap ebooks, then we can do that too.
Absolutely. And also, like, we have to remember that we're at the vanguard right now in terms of ebooks. Like, it would be like I make hardly any money on ebooks at all. I maybe sell 200 ebooks in a month. Maybe. I mean, you know, it's not a lot. But I feel like it's important to have them, because at some point this is like we're like at the trickle build stage. Like, I want my stuff to already be out there and already be established and ready to go when.
Okay, so let me just address that real quick, because that is
yes, please.
The EPUB 3 format. Several years ago, I put my books in EPUB 3 format. I did it on Adobe InDesign, and they can export to EPUB 3. And I uploaded it to an online contest with the IBPA, the Independent Book Publishers Association. And surprisingly, the judges couldn't open them because they hadn't updated their software. These were the judges.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. And so I thought then what I had to do is go for the lowest common denominator. The lowest common denominator for the ebooks, which was not those EPUB 3s. But EPUB 3s, I think this is the year it's going to make a difference, because the education distributors are now accepting EPUB 3s. Publish Drive will accept EPUB 3s, and they're accepting them not just for the plain ebooks, but the ones where they have a read-along. So if you've got an audio file you're going to upload also, then they will read along and highlight the words as the narrator speaks. And this is the year that's going to change. That's going to be standard.
All right.
So
prediction.
This is a year to make sure that you're on top of these ebooks.
I was going to say, I used to have PubCoder. Have you ever done PubCoder?
No.
It was like and I don't even have it anymore. I need to, maybe I should get it again. But it did those EPUB 3s, and you could add it in that one. Like it lets you control it. You could add your audio to it yourself. But I was like, I had it, I messed around with it a little bit, and then I was like, why am I wasting time on this? Nobody can even open these files anyway. So that's
so on the blog post, I mentioned Circular Flow, which actually allows this also. Their pricing isn't where I want it to be, though. It's $50 a book. Yeah, it's $50 a book. But you can do it that way, and a lot of people are doing it. So I had a company license some of my picture books this year to do that with. So we'll see if they sell.
All right. That's great. That's another thing to keep our eye on. And I will check out that part of the blog post again. All right. Thank you, Darcy. Elena, will you tell everybody where they should go to find us if they want?
So just simply visit www.indiekidlitpodcast.com. How's that?
Oh, it's perfect, as always. I'm the one who messes it up. You're the one who gets it right.
It's like burned into my brain.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And if you have a minute, please do leave us a rating and or review. We won't even be picky about the stars, although obviously like the 5-star ones are like the best ones, but like we'll take any of the stars if you're willing to take a minute to be able to do that. And we will see you next time.